Welcome to The Grind. Before we get this episode started, if you could please take a minute to share us on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, we would greatly appreciate it. A share on Facebook, a retweet on Twitter, and a subscribe on YouTube would go a long way in extending our reach and engaging more App State wrestling fans. Thank you for your time. Here's your host, Dominic Parisi.
Thank you, JB. So tonight we have another awesome guest for you all. Here's a little bit about his wrestling career in high school and in college. So he was a three-time high school state champion at Jefferson High in Georgia, which is one of the top high school programs in the state. He placed 7th at the Super 32 and 6th at Junior Nationals in Virginia Beach. The Super 32 tournament is probably one of the most, if not the most, prestigious tournament in high school, so placing 7th is a huge accomplishment as a high school wrestler. Before attending App, he went to the Naval Academy Prep School, where he wrestled there for 1 year before transferring to App. While at App, his freshman year, he redshirted and had a 4-3 overall record while wrestling unattached at a few tournaments. His redshirt freshman year, he finished the year with a 12-12 overall record, posted a 6-1 record in SoCon dual matches, and was named to the Southern Conference All-Freshman team. He was a SoCon runner-up at the 174-pound weight class. His redshirt sophomore year, he finished 18-10 overall and 10-6 in duels. Southern Conference runner-up at 165-pound weight class, finishing 6-1 in SoCon duels. He did receive a wild card bid where he had his first NCAA appearance. He also helped App State win a Southern Conference team title, the first team title since 2012. His redshirt junior year, he had a 22-12 record at 165 pounds, including victories against Oregon State, North Carolina, and Duke, as well as a 5-2 record in SoCon dual meets. With his individual wins against Oregon State, UNC Chapel Hill, and Duke, he helped App defeat 3 Power 5 programs in 1 year, where 2 were ranked in the top 25. Oregon was number 15, and UNC Chapel Hill was 25. He also led App to another consecutive conference team title. His redshirt senior year, he went 26-9 at the 174-pound weight class to improve his career record to 78-43. He was undefeated in Southern Conference duels. He placed 4th at the Southern Scuffle, which is one of the toughest Division I college wrestling tournaments. Placed 3rd at the Keystone Classic, 4th at the Hokie Open. And through his persistence and determination, he was a Southern Conference tournament champion his last year, earning an automatic bid to the NCAAs in Cleveland for the 2nd time. He was seeded 12th and went 2-2 at the NCAA championships. He was a multi-year academic All-American, and he received the Pinnacle Award that goes to the student athlete with the highest GPA on a championship team. Lastly, he helped App win its 3rd consecutive Southern Conference team title. Help me welcome to Beyond the Mat with Forrest Przybysz. Forrest, how you doing, man? How'd you like that intro?
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Glad to have you. Glad you're giving up some time here late Monday to be with us. We really do appreciate it. Trying to get as many of our wrestling alum on the show as we can. And again, we appreciate your time here. But yeah, let's get right into it. Let's go where it all started. How did you get involved in the sport of wrestling?
I started wrestling in first grade. So I was one of those guys that started out really young. My dad got me involved, myself and my brother, from a young age here in Georgia. Got involved in a really tough youth program. Actually, the Decula youth program that we were involved in my first year of wrestling, that wrestling room ended up putting out probably 7 or 8 Division I wrestlers, successful. Cody Russell, Sean Russell, Ryan Milhoff, just Joel Smith, lots of just tough guys, coincidentally or not, maybe, came out of that first grade, youth wrestling program in Georgia. Kind of wild.
Awesome. And that was that the club that you stuck with throughout high school as well? Is that the same program?
No, I jumped around a little bit here and there. So throughout middle school and high school, I wrestled at a couple of different clubs here in Georgia. So, you might have heard the name Jeff Bedard from time to time. He ran a club. Yep. You had Arturo Holmes running the wrestling, TWC, the wrestling center. You had Dustin Kawa, and then you had Lee Roper and Cliff Fretwell running the compound. So I got as much exposure to as many of those different clubs and training rooms as I possibly could growing up.
Awesome. So what? We'll keep it in high school for now. What was let's go through your first 2 years in high school. How was your freshman and sophomore year? How'd you do at the state tournaments? What weight classes were you? How did you progress as time went on? Give us some info on your first 2 years of high school.
Yeah, so my goal going into high school was to do the absolute best that I could. I wanted to be a 4-time state champion. I fell way short of that my freshman year. I got 6th at the state tournament and actually ended up breaking my ankle 4 or 5 weeks before the state tournament. Had some weight classes shuffle around, ended up having to go 2 weight classes low, cut a ton of weight. But then it really made an impact on me my freshman year, falling short of that goal. I knew that I had a certain amount of time to get better before the next season. And I really dedicated a ton of time to making, that my goal of becoming a state champion a reality that next year. So my sophomore year, I ended up winning the state title at 160 pounds, I believe.
Wow.
But yeah, just the pain of losing can be a really powerful motivator, as a lot of wrestlers know.
Yeah, no joke about that. We all know that pain. So then you play 6 your freshman year, you go into your sophomore year, you get your revenge, you go ahead and win that title, and then your senior year, we know you went ahead and won the state tournament both those years as well. But how did your seasons go? I mean, did you dominate your seasons? Did you have any adversity like your freshman year, or how did your last 2 years go in high school?
Yeah, junior and senior year, I'd say within Georgia, I really started clicking. I think my sophomore year, I still had 6 or 7 losses throughout the year, and we were a tough program, but we got out of state from time to time, wrestled in some tournaments in Tennessee and North Carolina. So we got some good out-of-state competition. But then junior and senior year, I think I lost 1 match apiece, and I think they were both out-of-state to some pretty tough guys. Maybe 2 matches. I can't remember my exact records, but 1 or 2 losses each of those seasons as far as regular high school season wrestling goes, and really made a lot of improvements. When you can make a lot of jumps wrestling when you're winning a lot of matches and your confidence is up and you're kind of just refining. But it's also important to get that that tough competition where you never really want to. If you're going undefeated, you're not necessarily being challenged. And as I think as Coach T, my high school wrestling coach, never really wanted any of his guys to go undefeated because it meant that they weren't being pushed hard enough and not getting the competition that they really needed.
Heck yeah. Well said. Well said. So then after your senior year of college, was App looking at you? We know you went to Naval Academy. So was App recruiting you at the time, or how did that recruiting process work? How did you transfer from the Naval Academy to App?
I think there was a little bit. I know I remember Coach Bentley coming to the Georgia State tournament every year, and I think he was looking at me a little bit. And I kind of, at that time, already had my heart set on going to the Naval Academy and going to the Naval Academy prep school. And there probably wasn't a lot of talking me out of it. I looked at a couple different programs, went on a couple different college visits, but part of me just really wanted to try out the Naval Academy prep school. It was one of those things where it's such a great opportunity to potentially go into a military academy and come out as an officer. And I don't have much military background in my family, so I didn't really have a gauge for what it was going to be like, but I knew I didn't want to leave any door unopened. I didn't want to be in a situation where I passed up on that opportunity.
Yeah.
And then regretted just not figuring out what it was all about. And the cool thing about when you go to the Naval Academy prep school is it doesn't count as a year of college eligibility. So it's kind of a no strings attached extra year of high school. I was super young for my grade. I think I graduated high school when I was 17. So it was almost like an extra year to develop mentally and physically and continue to work on wrestling. And if I found out the military wasn't for me, which I did, there's, you're not committed to actually having to go into the military service after that year.
Interesting. Yeah. I know when you first transferred in, we were teammates for, I think, 1 year.
1 or 2. Yeah. I think maybe 2. But you were always around as far as coaching and stuff.
Yeah. But I was like, man, how many more years does this guy have?
Yeah.
I didn't know that first year didn't count. But cool. Okay, so then your time at the Naval Academy or at the prep school is over with. You get to App, and you're here in your freshman year. How was that transition from school to school, and how did you like your first year at App, which was your redshirt year at the time? How did you like that first year?
Yeah, it was great. Tough transition. So the Naval Academy prep school, you go on a couple of visits and wrestle with some of the guys at the Naval Academy that are in that 4-year program. So you're getting like a real wrestling room experience. But most of the time you're just training with other guys fresh out of high school. So it's kind of like a really tough high school wrestling room. So you're going from that wrestling room to the App State wrestling room where you've got some really tough guys. And it's a full-on real college wrestling room experience. And then, of course, you've got tough assistant coaches, and then wrestling coach Bentley, as you know, he just lays the hammer on you, and it's tough. So definitely you take your licks as a freshman for sure.
Yeah, you got a pretty good growing year that first year coming in, getting your tail whipped by by the coaches.
Yeah.
Cool. So then let's do the same thing that we did with high school. Let's move on to college again. You just did your freshman year, but now we're into your 4 years of competing, where you started as an App wrestler. So talk us through that first year, right out of your redshirt freshman year. How was that first year?
Yeah. So my first year in the lineup, I was wrestling at 174 pounds. Early in the year, I ended up missing a tournament. I pulled my hamstring real bad and ended up missing a match or two. But other than that, got back on track. And I feel like a lot of freshmen that end up the first time they're really in that college lineup, getting that full wrestling experience, you see them make a lot of you see them improve a lot because it's tough to really get going. It's tough to find your groove. You lose matches that you really maybe shouldn't lose just because you're not experienced and you don't have match awareness, and you're just not used to weighing in every single week, making scratch weight. You've got one hour weigh-ins before you're wrestling in a duel. You're wrestling guys that are 3 or 4 years older than you. So it really can take 5 to 10 matches to really find that groove. And I felt like I did find that groove by the time I made it to the SoCon dual season. Like you said, I think I went 6-1. I dropped a match to I think it was the SIUE kid that year, but went 6-1 and ended up getting second at the Southern Conference tournament. Nail biter of a match. if everyone, I don't dwell on the past or anything, but part of wrestling is you're gonna get some bad calls, and everyone gets them, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just part. You just can't let it be that close. But just got a really tough call in the last second to not go to the NCAA tournament. So was super, super bummed about that. But in the same way, it kind of mirrored my high school wrestling career, where I fell short of my goal my freshman year. And then I knew I needed to put in a lot of work to come back my sophomore year and make my goal a reality. So my sophomore year, actually, I again lost the Southern Conference Finals, but I did well enough throughout the year in the regular season that I was able to get a bid to the national tournament. So my sophomore year, which was my third year at App, redshirt sophomore year, I was able to go to the NCAA tournament, which is a great experience.
Yeah, it is a great experience. And for those just tuning in, we're talking with Forrest Przybysz. That is how you pronounce his last name if you did not know. Please go ahead, share the video on whatever social media platform you're on. Help us reach more viewers. Go ahead and put some comments in the chat of the video. I've got it pulled up here on my other monitor so I can get to your comments. Hopefully, I know I had trouble with that last few times, but I'll try to get to your comments as they come in. But we're talking with Forrest Przybysz, and just got done discussing his first NCAA bid to the tournament. What city was that championship in, Forrest?
That one was in New York City, Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Cool place to have it. You think Madison Square Garden is like a massive arena, and it kind of is, but when you get in there, like the fans are like right on top of you, the way it's set up, and it's in New York, and everything in New York, even like the hotel rooms are really small, but the arena is just so packed in that it was just so much fun. Tons of energy in that arena.
Heck yeah. How was it commuting to and from the facility, or were you guys pretty close? Or, well, I mean, I know New York's a cluster. So
yeah, it wasn't bad. I think it was a 5 to 10 minute walk. I remember it being a little bit chilly, but yeah, not bad at all. And it's kind of cool. I mean, everything in New York, like you're in downtown New York City, so like even just walking to and from Madison Square Garden, you're kind of taking in the New York City experience of just craziness. There's really no other way to describe it.
That would have been an awesome venue to compete in. So then let's move on to your last 2 years: redshirt junior year, redshirt senior year. Go ahead and walk us through those. So you just got done with your NCAA appearance, your first bid your sophomore year, and now you've got to work up, and you've got your last 2 years left. Go ahead and walk us through those. Yeah,
so my redshirt junior year was by far my toughest year. And so my freshman year, I wrestled 174, and then I lost the wrestle off for 174 my sophomore year, ended up cutting down to 165, and that was a really tough weight cut for me, and it got tougher even going into my junior year. Got a little bit bigger. It was a little bit tougher of a weight cut, and I just really was struggling with managing my weight right, and doing it the right way. There were times when I knew I was a developed, skilled wrestler at that point as a junior, but I really just struggled handling my weight the right way. I'd be lazy with it or cut corners, and it really showed in my wrestling. Like going to the sauna, which you should just, as a wrestler, you should never do that. It takes all the water out of your body. Obviously, that's the point of it, but you just drain your electrolytes, and just really, really tough year. Ended up digressing in terms of results. Had a worse year overall. I again got second for the third time in a row at the Southern Conference tournament, but I had I was on the edge of getting a bid to the NCAA tournament, but didn't have a good enough season to actually get a bid to the NCAA tournament. Again, lost a handful of matches that I shouldn't have, just managing my weight the wrong way and showing up on match day not ready to wrestle because of my weight issues, but it also takes its toll on you in the practice room. So when you're not managing your weight the right way, you're showing up to practice and you're having to cut a lot of weight during practice. You're not getting your quality reps in, your quality practice time in, and it just affects you for the entire season. So if there's anything I could go back and change about my wrestling career, it would definitely be managing my weight better my redshirt junior year. That being said, I had the opportunity to go up a weight class to 174, and I almost felt like the lessons I learned managing my weight for 2 years at 165, doing it well for 1 year and then doing it poorly for the next year, helped me manage my weight even better at 174, where it wasn't as big of a weight cut. I was 9 pounds heavier, but I was still cutting enough weight to where I needed to manage it right. And I learned a lot of lessons from that bad year of not managing my weight right. So 174 pounds my senior year. It was by far my most successful season. If I could have wrestled one more year, and I'm sure everyone says this, but if I could have had one more year, I'd take it in a heartbeat. My senior years, when things just really, really started clicking for me, started beating some tougher ranked guys, pushing through some adversity. I had some injuries and still was able to find ways to win matches. Overall, I think I went into the NCAA tournament, the 12th seed, which is
correct. Yep.
Which is, obviously the goal. My goal personally was to be an NCAA All-American, and to do that, you finish top 8 at the NCAA tournament. I fell short of that goal, but overall felt like I had what I would call a successful senior year. I had, still a couple matches that I wish I could have back, as I'm sure everybody does. Everyone has those. But overall, proud of what I accomplished my senior year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the mental toll, not just that this sport takes on you just in general, but I mean, taking second consecutively for 3 years, right? And still grinding, still fighting, still sticking it out to reach that ultimate goal of being that All-American and getting that SoCon title. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, I competed with you for a year, and then was an assistant for, I think, another year while you were there. And yeah, man, I mean, your work ethic explains it all, and you did have a great senior year, that for sure. And you couldn't have been more spot on with the weight cut. I mean, I think that's something every high school wrestler should know going from high school to college. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, you get to high school tournaments. You mean, you don't have to cut your weight, right? Because you're not going full 3 periods. But then college, you're competing against the best of the best, and if you don't have the energy, you're not feeling too hot after that first 3-minute period. But you couldn't have said that any better, man.
Weight cutting is one of those things. It's just an unavoidable part of our sport, and you might be in a situation where you don't have a choice but to cut weight, depending on what your lineup is. So obviously, it's preferable to cut less weight. Maybe you want to be in a weight class where you only have to drop, 5 or 6 pounds every time you weigh in, and that's ideal. But it's not always going to be like that. You might lose a wrestle off, or your team might need you to go down a weight class, or you might hit a growth spurt midway through your high school, junior, senior year season, and all of a sudden it gets tougher. And you just have to be disciplined about managing it, and that's something that I fully admit I wasn't my junior year at App, and it definitely takes its toll. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's just good info, not just for App State alum and App fans. That's good info for the wrestling community across the world. All right, so let's move on here. Let's talk about your wrestling style. Give us some. Let's talk about your style. I could describe your style in one word. Yeah. But you go ahead, fill us in, man. What's your style? And feel free to tell us if it evolved from high school to college.
It evolved a little bit, probably a lot, but it's tough to really say. I mean, in high school, Georgia, to be honest, it's come a really long way in terms of competition, but it's not where Pennsylvania and Iowa and some of those really tough states are. But it's still become a tough state. But in in high school, I could get away with a lot of just being in shape and pushing the pace and gassing guys out who weren't trained. And at the end of the day, I was going to a lot of extra practices, club practices, and most of the competition that I was wrestling wasn't doing those extra, getting that extra bit of coaching outside of the regular high school season. So you could get away with a lot in high school. So in college, I actually had to develop a style and develop a game plan. And even in high school, but all the way through college, I was kind of the joke was how slow and unathletic, and I wouldn't call myself weak or anything in terms of strength, but even in the weight room, I was never really super strong. And that's definitely an area where lifted a lot of weights in college, but along with, not cutting my weight right my junior year, I could have been more disciplined in the weight room, especially outside of the season, to try to build that strength. But I kind of had to find ways to compensate for not being the most athletic guy. And you can build athleticism, of course, but even with all the work I was putting in, I'm just kind of a naturally heavy-footed, slow guy. So my style was to obviously get to my underhook. And I just wanted to put guys, I wanted to push the pace, and B, I wanted to put guys in compromising positions where I could just find a way to score, whether it was through a weird scramble or just getting to a really dominating tie. For me, it was always my underhook. And then I did have kind of a slick high crotch that made me look a lot faster than I was. But it was kind of just more of tricking somebody to reach at the wrong time, kind of thing. But yeah, it was really just trying to compensate for the areas of where, I was weak, and trying to figure out, where are the other guys weak, and how can I put somebody in a position that they really don't want to be in, and wrestle outside of their comfort zone. And at the end of the day, I really felt like I was a pretty gritty wrestler. I competed really hard. I had a lot of close matches, win or lose, in college. So I just competed hard, and if I needed to hustle to get the last takedown, then I was willing to do whatever it took. But yeah, that's kind of sums up my style. You're right about the underhook. So I think it's the most dominant position in wrestling, to be honest. I mean, you really don't want to be in a position where your arm's up and your whole body's exposed. And you see some guys in college will let you hang out in an underhook sometimes. And then once you get to that, upper level, you start watching those guys. And if they give up an underhook, they're circling out of it right away, and they're not letting it, those really top tier level guys, they know that, you don't want to be in an underhook.
Yeah, for sure. And again, for those tuning in, we're talking with Forrest Przybysz. Share the video, ask questions. I've got the comment box up here. If you got a specific question for Forrest, we'll get to it. But going back to your style, I mean, you had a great underhook, and if you got to it, you did find a way to score. And if those knew you had an underhook and they wouldn't really let you get there, you'd hit that slick, super duck looking high crotch that would just make them fall to their belly, which was awesome. You'd always make the bench just drop their jaw.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun,
man.
Like I said,
man.
It wasn't that I was quick. It was just kind of level change and kind of get guys reaching out of position, and more about making them do something they don't want to do that's not in their best interest, and then capitalizing on that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it complemented your underhook perfectly, because every time you go to that underhook, they know it's coming, and then anytime they think you were reaching, they think you'd be going for that hook, and then you'd freaking hit that slick move.
That's something Coach Bentley just, he'll preach that over and over and over again. I remember all 5 years, just you got to be able to score on both sides of a guy's body, because sometimes you're going to wrestle a left leg lead, and it's going to be really tough to get to that back right leg. So you got to be able to score on the right side. You got to be able to score on the left side.
Yeah, and speaking of Coach Bentley, that kind of leads me into my next question. Maybe what coach did you spend the most time with, doing individuals and getting extra workouts in, and talk about your coaching while here at?
Yeah, which coach spent the most time with me? Coach Bentley, especially my senior year. So my senior year, Like I said, things were starting to click. I was winning some tough matches, and I was spending a lot of time with Coach Bentley and Coach LeBlanc. So the way my schedule worked out my senior year is I had a ton of – all my classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was getting my master's degree in my senior year, and the way your classes – the way it works out is when you're in a master's program, there's less options for time slots for your schedule. So the way it worked out is I had to take a class during our Tuesday and Thursday normal morning practice. So Coach Bentley and Coach LeBlanc would come in the mornings with me. And usually they'd alternate days. And I would just get a really, really good one-on-one workout with them. And I know that's, as tough as those practices were for me, I know they were tough for them. That's a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And they would get on the mat. They're not just, they could have had they could have had a partner come in for me, and they could have coached me from the side and coached us from the side. But Coach Bentley and Coach LeBlanc would come in, and they'd work out hard one-on-one first thing in the morning at 8 a.m. And can't speak highly enough about the two of them and the amount of dedication and work that they put into making the wrestlers better. It's the easy way out when it comes to coaching is to kind of, coach from the side. And there's a lot of value, obviously, in that. But one of the most valuable things about my, career at Appalachian State was the dedication of the coaches to actually get hands-on with you and teach you and spend a ton of time with you. Yeah,
amen to that. You couldn't have said that any better. And all the coaches outside of John Mark Bentley have all gotten head coaches elsewhere. Both Josh Rosa and Ryan LeBlanc have both taken.
Shout out to both of them. That's awesome news.
Yep, and of course, Coach Bentley's still doing his thing, getting a whole new staff in, and going to start that process over with developing great coaches as well as wrestlers.
Yep.
So let's move on to the next question here. Favorite tournament trip you enjoyed outside of the NCAAs?
Favorite tournament?
I know we would, and they sometimes weren't yearly trips. Like the Keystone Classic, sometimes I remember, one of my experiences, which I didn't really enjoy, but we went out to Cal State Bakersfield. But what was a trip that stood out to you outside of the NCAAs? Maybe not your favorite, but maybe one that was just memorable for some reason.
Man, I'm really racking my brain here trying to think. And I remember that Cal State Bakersfield trip. But I mean, every year the SoCon tournament's a lot of fun. It was, I think it was in Charleston, South Carolina, my senior year. It's a lot of fun, and we'd go out the day before usually. I think it was there 2 years. I think it was there my junior and my senior year.
Yeah.
I'd go out to the beach the day before and just kind of get out in the sun, get some vitamin D. You're cutting weight, so that just like that sunshine. And wrestling's a winter sport, so and in Boone, North Carolina, that cold, snowy weather can take its toll. So just getting down to South Carolina, getting your feet in the sand and getting some sunshine on your face can really lift your spirits when you're a few pounds over your weight and you're really just focused on the Southern Conference tournament. It can just really give you that boost. So I really enjoyed that part of those two trips.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can agree with that. I enjoyed going to Charleston as well. It is a pretty good place, especially put your toes in the sand after up here being in 20-degree weather for 5 months.
For sure.
Cool. Well, okay. Most memorable individual match out of your whole career in college?
Yeah, I would say, obviously you remember a lot of them, but my senior year, we were out in Oklahoma, wrestling Oklahoma, and was wrestling a tough guy. I think he was ranked, he's top 15. He might have been number 12 at the time, and they try not to get too into the rankings, especially when you're competing. But he was a tough wrestler and ended up twisting my ankle really bad in the first period. And the next couple days, it swelled up and it was huge and black and blue, and it was kind of a plague for the rest of my senior year. I was always having to get my ankles taped, and I ended up missing a little bit of practice because of it. But It was right before Christmas break, and everyone's just looking forward to that Christmas break, but you've got to stay focused. I twisted my ankle in that match and was somehow, one way or another, able to find a way to win the match, and it was a super close dual meet, and that was when he twisted my ankle, it was called an illegal move. He had my leg up in the air and tried to trip me in some way that the referee called illegal. And in a close match like that, you can, if you're injured, you can not continue and your team gets the forfeit and you get 6 points. And that 6-point win can make a really big difference in a close match like that. So having the option running through your head, knowing that I could, I'm legitimately injured, I could, take a dive and it wouldn't really be a dive because I'm legitimately injured. But getting back up and knowing that in a close match like that, if I wind up losing, the coaches are going to be pissed at me for not, for actually getting up and wrestling injured, but just, finding a way to win that match and actually score points for the team was super memorable and probably one of my more, proud moments in my career.
No, I will agree with you 100%, and that was the match that I had envisioned that you were gonna say for that question. I do remember that. He basically had I don't know what he got. I don't know if he did a snatch single leg, but then had your leg up high, and then completely just I think he turned down to the mat against your ankle joint to where, it looks illegal.
Yeah, and it popped, and I had all sorts of, it's still, you can feel that cartilage crunching around in there today. But speaking, I would, guys would always get my leg up in the air. And speaking of, compensating for weaknesses, I had those, slow feet a lot of times, and guys would a lot of times get to my leg and get up in the air and just, developed some good balance there just from years of guys in the room and Coach Bentley especially getting my leg up in the air and have to figure out a way to not get scored on.
Yeah, no, that was a great performance on your end, and that was a good individual match. I mean, what did that duel come down to, one of the last matches?
Yeah, it came down to the last match. We ended up losing the duel,
which was to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, and they're a tough team, of course, but really tight duel meet.
Yeah, it was a tight duel meet. I do remember that match very well. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's go to let's dive in the wrestling room here with some workout partners. Give us some info on your workout partners. Who'd you battle it out with in the room? Who was your number one guy that you would look forward to wrestling with or scrapping with?
Yeah, so I mean, all 4 years I always had great wrestling partners. And even when you don't, which I never really didn't have good wrestling partners, but part of that's because the coaches are ready to jump in with you. Coach Rosa, Coach LeBlanc, Coach Bentley. Even when you get to that point where you're beating everyone in the room your senior year, you get humbled by wrestling, Coach Bentley and just I can remember some tough workouts with Coach Bentley where it's tough. If you haven't wrestled him, it's hard to describe what it's like. It's really something else.
Touche.
I used to wrestle a lot with Nick Key, App State guy. Wrestled for 4 years, I believe. I wrestled for 5. We came in the same year. He's the one who beat me out for the 174 spot my sophomore year, and then we didn't wrestle off for it my junior year, I believe. I just was committed to going 165 for another year. He had just a tough double leg, if I recall. Tough, and I have those slow feet, so he'd catch me with that every now and then. But yeah, we always had some good partners, and Coach LeBlanc would always come in and he had those heavy hands, and you'd have a headache after wrestling with him because he'd just slap you in the back of the neck. Didn't matter if you were wrestling him live or he was just showing technique on you. He'd make sure to club you in the back of the head pretty hard.
Yeah, no, I remember wrestling him one time. I think I took him down. He never wanted to wrestle me again, but I would watch him wrestle all the time. I'd watch him wrestle all the time, and I would see those heavy hands, right?
Yeah.
And they're just heavy clubs, and he's always on your head. And I always thought, I was like, man, he's either getting tired or he's getting pretty pissed off right now. He wants whoever he's wrestling to give in.
For sure.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, you can't beat the coaches as workout partners. You really couldn't. I mean, even the coaches that transitioned out when I was there. I mean, yeah, you can't beat those coaches. What's your so kind of moving on past wrestling, the wrestling scene a little bit. Let's talk about Boone. What's your fondest memory, favorite part about Boone?
Boone's the summertime weather. So when you're at App State and you're wrestling, and a lot of people, you can get not burnt out, but you put in a lot of work, and a lot of guys like to look forward to going home and seeing their families, of course, but there's no easier place to stay and train over the summer than Boone, North Carolina, because the weather is just beautiful from probably, May through October is just beautiful weather in Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Tons to do, tons of high, better than anybody, all there is to do in Boone.
Yeah, no, you can't beat it. The traffic is slim to none.
Yep.
In this congested area. I mean, it's a country town right in the middle of a mountain valley. Yeah, traffic's great. What would you say the high is on a hot summer day?
Oh, just
80 degrees with a nice wind chill too.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Where's the favorite place that you lived?
So my last 3 years at App, I had a great apartment set up. So I don't remember the address exactly, but it was, you go out past Walmart about a mile, you turn left, and it's on the side of a mountain, and there's this little apartment complex, maybe 15, 16 units up there. And I had the unit that was on the second floor. So each one was 2 floors. So it was on the top floor, and my bedroom window faced out just this beautiful mountain view. Like the amount of rent I paid was way less than what this view was worth. And it was the only apartment at this entire complex with that view. So I'd come home every single day from practice and just get to enjoy that view. And even in the winter, it's so nice. Just beautiful being up in the mountains.
Yeah.
There's a reason a lot of people build mountain homes up there and live there. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's why I can't leave this beautiful place, is because of that right there. All right, so we're going to get into some quick fire questions. It's called Let's Scuffle.
All right.
I bet you can remember, I said this to one of our last younger alum that wrestled in the scuffle, at least at Chattanooga. Remember that guy on the announcer?
Oh, yeah.
He'd always say that 20 times an hour. Let's scuffle.
For sure.
Anyway, all right, here we go. Question 1, top, bottom, or neutral?
Oh, for sure, bottom. You got to get your point. Got to be able to get out on bottom.
That's your go-to position, bottom?
Yeah, if I'm in a real match, as far as just, wrestling, I kind of like to be on top and get the legs in and score some points. But yeah, in a real match, you got to be able to get out on bottom, get your point.
Touche. Again, talking to Forrest Przybysz, getting towards the end of our session here tonight of this episode. Got about 15 left. Go ahead, put some questions in. We'll get to them. Next question here for the quick fire questions. Breakfast or dinner?
When I was training, breakfast all the time. You just work up that appetite from training, and you crave that oatmeal or some form of carbs in the morning, that morning coffee. But now I find I don't, that I'm not training every single day or twice a day and lifting weights. I don't have that morning appetite like I used to. So now I'd say dinner all the time, all day.
All right, here's a good one here. Would you rather do Howard's Knob twice back to back or move mats for camp?
Howard's Knob back to back to back before move mats. The thing about moving mats is it just takes all day. That's an all day commitment, and it's not like it's easy. It's not like it's easy or fun. Neither is the knob, but you can get up the knob in 22 minutes if you're me, 17 if you're you, and get back down in about the same amount of time, maybe a little longer. And you could do the knob twice in an hour and a half if you're in good shape, maybe 2 hours, and be done for the day. But man, moving mats, that's rough. And they're just, mats are nasty.
You know how, being a wrestler, there's no hazing. Hazing's going through practice, right? Going through that grind. Well, on moving mats day, you also find out some character of your teammates. You know?
Who the slackers
find out their work ethic. Yeah, who the slackers are, who's got the work ethics, who don't. Yeah, for sure. And I'll even challenge. I think Coach Bentley should put the guys right now on the team through a back-to-back knob run. I think that'd be.
I think that's a great idea.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Find out who your tough guys are.
Yeah, just compare. Your first time to your second.
Yeah.
Just to see how fatigued you get. Anyway, moving on.
Cody Russell's just cussing right now.
Yeah. I asked him one time. I was like, "Hey man, I'm about to run the knob. You want to come?" He usually texts me back right away. He didn't text me back till like the day after I texted him that. So yeah, he don't like it.
Shout out to me and Will Formato. I know they had a great weekend this past weekend. Both won a couple matches out at senior nationals. That's awesome to get out there and get that experience in.
Heck yeah, Georgia boys.
Yep.
All right, McDonald's or Bojangles?
McDonald's. I mean, I don't really eat at either of them, but
don't lie for us. Come on. You snacked there a little bit.
Can't beat a McGriddle.
There you go.
McDonald's coffee is a great combo.
Yeah. All right, here's another good one. Would you rather do 6 a.m. preseason or 6 a.m. postseason workouts?
Postseason, like after the entire season. I mean.
So I'll give you some more specifics here. So 6 a.m. preseason, right? That's your Monday, Friday, going to the athletic center. You got your lift run. 6 a.m. postseason, you've got your conditioning at the combo, hand fighting.
Oh, gotcha. Like prepping for the national tournament.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Getting some swim workouts in. Postseason all the way. When you're that close to the national tournament, it's just an exciting time. You're just coming off the Southern Conference tournament, going into the NCAA tournament. You're just excited.
Yeah.
Workouts get a little bit easier mentally. They're still tough, but just easier mentally because you're just pushing. You're in that last push before the end of the season.
Heck yeah. Would you rather do wrestling camps? So if you had to come back, right, or tomorrow, you had to pick. Would you rather go through a wrestling camp session? I'm talking moving mats, all 500 camps, and then moving mats again, or would you rather go through a wrestling season?
Wrestling season, especially if I get to compete, man. I'm sure everyone would say it, but it goes by in the blink of an eye, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But yeah, wrestling season too it's a lot of fun. You take it for granted when you're going through it, and it's so tough. But yeah, it's fun, and you get so much better.
Now with wrestling camps, you've been to App how many times before you were attended the school?
Yeah,
because of wrestling camps, right? Because your high school would come up and compete in our camps and train every year and bring 30, 40 guys.
Yeah, and if there's any high school coaches listening that don't come to the App State camp every year, and I know it's probably tough this past year with the COVID situation, but highly recommend it. You get a lot better. You get a lot of different clinicians coming in and teaching you. I think I went from 7th grade every year all the way to my senior year in high school, and whether you're going for the 3-day camp or for a longer period of time, you just get so much wrestling condensed into that small period of time, and it's just you make a lot of jumps. It's tough to the best way to get better at wrestling is to be on the wrestling mat.
Yeah, for sure. And even beyond that, I mean, your team camaraderie, that you get, guys hanging out in the dorms, you want to fight for your teammates more. The more you get to know them. Yeah, yeah, I loved camps. It was a grind, but man, you just meet so many high school kids that, you just joke around with them and whatnot. All right, moving on here. Would you rather do a grind match with Coach Bentley, 30-minute match, or would you rather do an hour swim workout?
Just, in the back, when I was in the midst of it, the easier option would be the hour swim workout. But, I have fond memories of wrestling, so I'd wrestle Coach Bentley, and I'm sure in the midst of it I would regret my decision, but it's a lot of fun. I love wrestling, and I've got some good memories of wrestling with Coach Bentley and spending time in the room and just getting those tough scraps in.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Again, we're winding down here, probably last 5 minutes here, talking with Forrest. If you got a last-minute question for us, put it in the box. I'll try and get to it. But just to wrap up, Forrest, what are you doing now? Where are you living? How's life? What are you doing for work? Just fill us in on what's going on right now.
Yeah, so I do. I live with my wife Courtney and our 2 dogs. We've got 2 Australian Shepherds. One of them's blind, one of them's deaf. So one's the eyes, one's the ears. They're still little puppies. They're born that way.
No way.
Yeah. Love them to death. They're tons of fun, tons of energy, and when people see them, no one even realizes they're blind or deaf. They're border collie Australian Shepherd mixes, so they're super smart dogs.
High energy.
Yeah, high energy.
Yeah.
The blind one will play fetch. It takes him a long time to find the ball, but when he does, he's just pumped. So they're a ton of fun. But we live 45 minutes northeast of Atlanta. It's called Buford. We're about 2 miles from Lake Lanier, which is a really big lake. So my wife's parents have a boat, and we get out on the boat a couple times every summer. It's a lot of fun. But for work, I do Facebook advertising for a company called Brainjolt. They're based out of California, but I get to work from home, work remotely. So I work kind of like a staggered schedule where I kind of start 3 hours later in the day, but I also work a few hours later at night. And if you've been on Facebook and seen those pesky ads that are saying the 37 best gadgets you have to buy on Amazon right now, that's me. I probably put that ad up because we get a commission. So we'll write an article. We get somebody from Facebook to click on the article, and they click on an Amazon product, and if they buy it, Amazon gives us a 7 or 8% commission, and we just play it so that we pay Facebook less to get the person to the article than what we make from Amazon. So it's kind of just like an arbitrage game, but it's a lot of fun. It's kind of, in a weird way, kind of like trading stocks. You're just trading ads, and it's a little bit different every single day, and it's a lot of fun.
Man, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
It's an interesting job for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, glad life after wrestling's going great with your wife and dogs, and then you got a job and you're still working, especially in the times right now.
Yep.
But we'll finish up. Last question here. What's one thing you hope people remember you for while wrestling it at?
I'd say nothing crazy, just being a good example of kind of, this podcast is called The Grind, and just staying the course, and being diligent and kind of doing things right. I know we talked a little bit about my junior year where I stumbled, not managing my weight the right way. But, other than that, I felt like, I took care of my schoolwork, showed up to every practice on time, worked hard while I was at practice, and just kind of the product of hard work compounded over time. You can even, talking about the stats of my career, my freshman year, my redshirt year, going 3-4 or 4-3 or whatever you said, and then my next year was 12-12. And then just those steady improvements throughout the course of my career where if you put in the work, you start to figure things out. And you get closer and closer to your goals and make improvements. So just kind of an example of what work over extended period of time can kind of yield for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen your progression since your freshman year here through senior year, and you are a true example of someone who sticks to the course and stays on task and doesn't give in when things get tough, man. So great example for young wrestlers. And Forrest, that about wraps it up. We appreciate you coming on, man. We really do. For those listening, please become a Patreon of The Grind. Our site is live, and we will post a link to our site in the feed soon. And these videos will eventually be available for those who are Patreons. So go ahead, become a member, get content early, and so on and so forth. Help support our wrestling program and everything that The Grind is doing for App Wrestling. Follow us on all the major social media networks at App State Grind. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the like buttons, the share buttons, do all that social media stuff. Help us get our content out. That's all we got. Again, Forrest, thank you. We appreciate everybody for listening in.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
This episode of The Grind is proudly sponsored by Mountaineer Works. Mountaineer Works, owned and operated by Appalachian State alum and athletics photographer Chad W. Mitchell. Chad designs and builds officially licensed, unique cornhole board sets, and today I give my all plaques that will surely rock your tailgate, party, backyard barbecue, office, or creative space. They're sculptured smooth in the wood lab, fire-coated at over 3,000 degrees, and paint dyed in the Cornhole Conservatory to complement their one-of-a-kind grain, then App State branded. The best part is you choose from a set of pre-approved color layouts and App State logos to personally design your cornhole boards, and today I give my all plaque. Mix it up or match it up, you can't go wrong. Show your Mountaineer pride as these make solid gifts for deserving folks. Find Mountaineer Works on Facebook and Instagram to place your order or ask a question.
This has been a production by Yosef Media.